Alright, you're rolling.
Good. Alright, good afternoon. H1 McKinley again, I was here yesterday. We're going to run it like we did. Just like we did yesterday. You got any questions or concerns throughout it? Raise your hand. If you see something on exam, raise your hand. Let your fellow second classes know. Alright, your overview. Alright, reportable medical events may represent a inherent significant threat to public health. The definition of this is probably not going to be on your test. Next slide. Alright, so reporting important preventable medical events has been a long cornerstone of our law. As such, DOD 6490.02 ECHO requires the reporting of medical events within the DOD as defined in this guide. Alright, so you might want to remember that. The DODD 6490.02 ECHO. Because they'll ask a question like, you know, what's required for the reporting of medical events within the DOD? Boom, right? Alright, so things you look at when you're reading through the reference and read through these guys. Alright, so we have our ECHO, which is our comprehensive health surveillance. Deployment health, I'm pretty sure I've seen the joint publication for Tech 02. Everybody else seen that? Yeah, I've seen that one. Alright. You're going to see this one every other test, right? What it actually is. You're going to see it on every test, but you're going to see what that actually is, the medical department P117 on there as well. I'm sure you are having a class of the medical P117, is that correct? So we won't go into that at all. You also should be having a class of medical surveillance, medical event reporting, 6220.12. Army regs, I don't know if I've seen that, but it seems to be pretty important, all right? Because every time we talk about anything that deals with deployment health or PrevMed or, you know, anything like that, it's always who is the agency that runs it, or who is the secondary agency, and it's always what? Always the Army, right? So if you see that, good on you, all right? The other ones I have not seen, but I'm not going to say they're not on there. The below criteria are used collectively to decide whether a medical diagnosis or condition should be reported or not. Alright? They're probably not going to tell you, hey, you know, give you a list of things of what it may or may not do. They may, but I'm pretty sure they won't. So this is kind of need to know, is there a clear case definition of the controls reporting? Just like we do with any medical reportable event, these are the questions that are required to be answered on that event. Next slide. Alright, so case definition. Specific clinical, laboratory, and other criteria that must be met for a disease or condition to be reportable. Okay? That will be. Alright. Why is that going to be on there? Pretty easy, right? We're going over what reference? And that's literally what? The definition of what the hell you're going over, right? So those big things go on. All right, medical event reports. The actual report containing information for the Army that is physically entered into the disease reporting system. All right, you need to identify these acronyms, okay? Because 99% of the time they're gonna base that off of MREs are actually reported in what system, and they're not going to give you disease reporting internet, right? What are they going to give you? All right, no, they're going to give you this DRSI, or they're going to say DRSIs for actual reports with what? They're not going to say medical event reports. They're going to put MER. All right, has everybody seen that? So you get in your head like, oh, that's all right, I'll read it, and then they just throw acronyms at you, and you're like, whoa, that acronym means like 5 different things in the medical field. You got to know what it means for the reference with which pulls these two together, right? Boom and boom. So you need to know what those two are to answer that question. All right, that's all I'm gonna give you kind of out of that. It's pretty cut and dry, but they'll try to fool you on using those acronyms instead of using the acronyms. Background, case classification. The case classification specifies what is needed to meet the case definition of a reportable event. The case definition can be grouped into 3 classification categories. All right, I would probably know these. Your case classifications for reportable events. Can somebody read off their computer what's under suspected classification?
Early identification of the disease is critical for disease control. Case definition usually limited to clinical symptoms without lab results.
Okay, next one problem.
Case definition is usually more detailed than suspected classification. Does not have all the required elements for confirmed case.
Alright, confirmed.
Case definitions is the most specific, usually requires laboratory support.
Okay, did you see that being on the test? How it would be worded? Like, it'll give you which one does not have all the blah blah, and it'll list 3, and then the next one, right? So, might look good, or good to see those. The easiest way to do that is spot what it is, suspected, probable, and confirmed. Alright? Another thing what they might do is they might abbreviate this. SC, PC, and CC. So watch out for that. But what I would do is I'd take suspected, and I'd find a word or a group of words in here. Boom, know it. I don't need to know this whole thing, right? Same thing here. I'd find a word or two or tell me does not. Boom, automatic problem. See what I'm saying? So that's a good way to study this slide right here, because you potentially will see this information on the test. Next slide. HIV is not reporting through dimmer's eye. Did it used to be? Alright, they used to have, the difference that they did with HIV is they used to have the actual negative positive on when you click the blood tab, where the date's at, it used to be in there. Now you actually got to go through the HIV reporting manager tab. Because if you print out their HIV chronological order form out of their MERS, what comes up? Okay? It just says dates and verified, right? It doesn't give you a result. So you actually have to go through HIV management, look them up for their social, and then that's how you can get the chronological, HIV chronological report with the actual test. And that's like when people are like, oh, hey, I need to know my last one for, I'm doing a freaking recruiting duty or something like that. All right, that's where you go to find it. Added information. You need to know, probably not. Next slide. All right, so this is going into the actual events for medical, for reportable medical events. All right, not going to go through these slide by slide, or not going to read all these slide by slide. Okay, because for one, you need to know basically what it is, or the name, not really what it is. I've never seen them asked in this format. Okay. See a painless skin lesions evolving during a period of 2 to 6 days. Probably highlight because they've seen it on a test. Has anybody seen this actual information on an exam? Okay, I haven't taken that exam for a while, so I haven't seen this. I haven't seen it on a sheet exam either. So I pretty much just focused in on these. If I can break down what these are by definition, I really only need to see this. I think there's more on the next slide as well, okay? Yeah, continue. All right. Next. Here you go. Back one. Continue again. Know what the definition of what these are. Got to read through them. Your cold weather injuries and what they are from medical injuries. I'm sure you went through. Did they have Chief Razor over here?
That's tomorrow.
Okay, you'll enjoy Chief coming over from Stone Bay. He'll talk to you about cold weather injuries and your reporting medical events through that as well. A little bit more. Next slide. Your heat illnesses. All right, super important came with June, right? Every time you have any type of heat case, you guys have to report it all the time, right? So basically, what type of events am I reporting? Right, not just for, I'm talking, yeah, heat, right? Because here in Camp June, I have to report it all, right? Because they want to know it. They want to know all that stuff all the time. So what type of events am I reporting as a whole? Say again? Any incident that can have a Marine or a sailor be combat infected, right? Because all the illnesses before that you read up there, are those illnesses going to make you combat infected to where you're going to be down for a while? Or is it, can I take a pill and be good the next day? All right, it's a significant event that's going to affect your ability or your sailor's ability or your Marine's ability to be combat effective. All right, I'm just saying combat effective because you're green side, and you will remember that. If I just say fit for duty, yeah, I can say that too. Next one. This one, tick-borne illness. I know this was big at Camp Pendleton. Is that big here? All right. This is if you guys ever do training or they send you out to Camp Pendleton, if you guys do training out there, especially with the snipers, they get ticks all the time. All the time. Just added information. Next slide. Next slide.
I've seen that Giardia.
Have you seen Giardia?
Yep. What is a condition with diarrhea, abdominal cramps, bloating, weight loss, or malabsorption?
Like I said, guys, I'm not going to go into every single one of these. All right, it's going to be your responsibility to go in there and know what you. Most of these diagnoses, you already know what they are. All right, first signs and symptoms. If not, what's the easiest way to figure out what the actual disease is to the sign and symptoms? Break it down, right? So if I break it down and know what the first part of the word means and the second part of the word means, right? We have millions of freaking medical terms out there. If you know one looks similar, choose it. If you can break it down that way, right? Like hyper and hypo and all these other things. If you can figure that part out, you'll be all right with this. Of course, you're not going to freaking break down gonorrhea. It's just gonorrhea. But you just have to study these one by one. There's no way I can read these out loud. First of all, it's going to be tedious and mundane, and you're not going to suck up the information. You're just going to have to look at it and review it. All right? And not necessarily just because H1 over here said, hey, I've seen this on an exam. Yeah, that one could be on there, but all these could be on there just by definition. So it's going to be your responsibility to review that stuff. Next slide. This one's been on there. I've seen this one. Bullseye rash. I have seen that. Measles, Ishcockle, mumps, acute swelling of salivary glands, absence of days. I missed that. Seen this one? Neurovirus? I've seen this one. With symptoms usually last 24 hours to 60 hours. I have seen that one. Anybody else seen that one? Alright, good. Hey, like I said, you've seen it. Shoot your hand up. Justice, I don't think I've seen that. I have seen plague, but I think they had it broken down like it was like an all of the above type question. The rabies one, I've only seen it in the other manual where we talked about zoology. I don't think I've seen it in report of medical events. Yeah, I don't think I've seen that in this part of the test. Next slide. Syphilis on the last exam.
What causes it?
What causes it? All right. Good to go. And that was what causes it. Was it broken down like this?
Yeah, bleeding.
That's usually how they like to do that. And it'll be super similar, right? It'll be super similar about how they throw these down. I saw this one a long time ago. I might have seen this in my E5 exam.
You said 95 exam?
My 95 exam. Damn. Next level. All right. Hey, like I said, there's no rhyme or reason or purpose that I have to go through all those. All right. Do you need to review all those? Yes. All right. So the main things you need to know is the Army, those publications, especially the publications, FORTAC 20, and the other publications associated with it. but just the big ones that you see all the time, all right? But that information is a lot in that slide, and there's a lot that I can't just give to you because there's no way this is one of those things where you're gonna have to create a test for yourself or create a quiz for yourself and just monotonously, you know, flip a flashcard or do it over and over and over and over again. It's the only way you're gonna get it. I can't just speak up here and you're gonna get it. If I did, then you'd all be super familiar. Next slide. Or next. Hey, give me about 5 minutes. I gotta make a pencil.
Okay. Good. Take a break.
Medical surveillance and reporting is listed as the subject for two different references.
Information session, NCIDC EAP, just for the title.
That was not my intention by telling him that it was fucked up. I just wanted him to know he missed it.
Anybody here want to do color guard? No? Nobody? Anybody? Anybody done color guard before?
Sure.
Alright, you know the change in instruction that just got put out? Alright, I just got permission from the CMC to add the availability for you guys to get flocks and names out of the program. So, add additional points to your exam. Alright, that just means you have to be involved in it. And we just did a Panther game like 2 weeks ago. We got to go to the Carolina Panther game, meet the players. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Alright, that's not going to be on your exam.
Is that a pro or a con?
Huh?
Is that a pro or con?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a Panther fan, but he is. Whoa! Go back one. Alright. Know this. I've seen that on every exam that's ever been with this program. Alright? They want to change this and throw it out there to make it like a set nav or an op nav. Alright? Know that at the top. Everybody understand what I'm saying? I'm stomping my foot, clapping my hands, doing all I can. Okay? Medical surveillance and medical reporting, technical manual. Alright? Technical manual. That's all. Okay. What I get out of this is pretty much one thing, right? My reportable medical events are my RMEs, all right? Every time I've seen it on exam, it's always been RMEs. I don't think I've ever seen reportable medical events. Has anybody ever seen the actual reportable medical events? Or you've always seen RME? All right, I've always seen RME on there, all right? Again, make sure you look at your acronyms. All right, are events and conditions that may pose an inherent significant threat to public health and or military operations. All right, these events have potential to affect large numbers of people, to be widely transmitted within the population, to have severe life-threatening clinical manifestations and disrupt military training and deployment. I believe it's on the next slide on who determines actions on RMEs. Next slide. Yeah, okay, under the authority granted by BUMED, instruction 6220.12 Charlie. Alright, again, remember how we talked about at the very beginning, the technical manual, right? They're going to want to put out BUMED instruction 6220.12 Charlie. See what I'm saying? But remember, technical manual. This segment manual provides guidance for all unit level Navy Marine Corps personnel who have responsibility for medical surveillance and medical event reporting. Okay? So it'll ask who grants authority for medical surveillance and medical event reporting. Good. Alright, the duties and responsibilities of the Navy Medical Department related to medical surveillance and medical event reporting are defined in Chapter 2 and Chapter 22. I haven't seen that on the test, but if I was writing and I saw that and it's important, I'd probably put that on the test as like 2,21. See what I'm saying? So just know the chapters that are responsible for the medical event reporting. As required by the MANMED Senior Medical Officer. Another big one that should be probably read. Alright? Who's required per the MANMED at every command to ensure that command has an adequate policy? Medical officer. Because what are they going to put right below senior medical officer? Commanding officer. Right? Or are they going to put commanding officer, and then they're going to put senior enlist leader, and then they're going to put CMC, and then you're going to be like, whoa, every event, everything's ran by who? The CO, and you're just going to freaking go. Alright? So remember, your medical event reporting, your SMO, or your senior medical officer, ensures that the command has an adequate policy and procedure. Alright? Next slide. The Navy, Marine Corps Navy Public Health Centers also have developed the electric case. Not really worried about that. Haven't seen that. Mr. PMT, have you seen any of this on the slide on the exam? Because this is the stuff that you're going to see like, I know that.
Sick call logs sometimes on there.
Sick call logs?
Yeah, I've seen the DNVI.
Non-battle injury, yeah.
Second paragraph down at the bottom.
Right by your finger.
Boom, right here. Alright, you seen that? I'll read it. Medical staff in operational units with more than one provider. Fuck, I'm sorry. I'll read this whole paragraph. To search for unreported RMEs in a systematic way. Preventive medicine personnel at MCFs and branch clinics should leverage their access to local labs, the electronic medical record system, and DoD's electronic surveillance system, such as the electronic surveillance system for early notification of essence. Alright, that's probably going to be on there. Essence. They probably won't give you this because they'll run out of line in the test. Alright, so if we're talking about electronic surveillance for medical event reporting, what is it? Essence. Okay. The medical staff in operational units with more than one provider should review the sick call logs and weekly disease non-battle injuries. Okay. So remember sick call logs, and probably when is disease non-battle injury reports for reportable cases required? Weekly.
Right. I can say a question from the last sentence.
You saw that one?
I can see them putting in.
Yeah, I can definitely put that. Are we jotting down anything that we should start highlighting? Okay. Hey, same thing for this, guys. If you've seen this on the exam to help these guys for your future EAP, if you see stuff like this, and I know it's day 2, start highlighting there and let these guys know at the end, like, hey, I remember seeing this. So that way, it gives us a better opportunity when we deliver the next course. All right, hopefully you're not in it, but next time we deliver the next course, we can pass that word and continue to build this EAP on and on and on and on. All right? Because basically, I got 25 people here that have taken exams, and if you all remember 3 or 4 questions, I can pretty much get the test, right? but you've taken multiple exams, and I know that stuff. Once you've taken a test, you're like, data done for that. Oh man, I'm done. I'm probably going to get demoted because I did so bad on that test. But you got that information going on, so help these guys out. All right, I'm sure they'd appreciate it. Next slide. That's just me making up for saying my bad words. Any diagnosis, case, or medical event listed in Tri-Service Guide. I've seen the Tri-Service Guide. Has been identified in the DON healthcare beneficiary and classified as reportable in accordance with paragraph 1, tag 6 below shall be reported. I've seen the Tri-Service Guide in there. All right, where do we see this?
Case definition.
Saw it in the last one, right? So if it's in that one for a reference to study for the bib, and it's in this one, you think it should be something we should probably be looking at? All right, so some things you probably need to highlight, go back, look at that table, and really identify what they are. If I see something twice in a reference, man, I'm all over that. All right, that's a free question to me. I see it multiple times.
Talking about the same shit over.
Yeah. Again, if I'm reading this and I say MER, what's MER? All right, I'll give you one. Cool. Yeah, when I was reviewing this, kind of the only thing I saw when I was reviewing this is I reviewed, I got down to the bottom, and then I saw, see Appendix C, descriptions including the outbreak report, submit only one MER per outbreak. Alright, so of all this that I was reading, boom, 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 of course, some of this might be in there, but I really saw this, submit only one medical event report per outbreak unless instructed otherwise by supporting NEP and use. Right? If I got that, I'll probably highlight that red. Reporting deadlines. You're going to know this. Right? They like to have deadlines and dates, right? Reports can be either urgent or routine. Alright? True or false? Reports can be either urgent or routine. True or false? Reports can be either urgent or priority. You see what I'm saying? That's how they like to trick you up with these sorts of things. Urgent reports are required for events listed in Appendix B. Urgent reports shall be submitted no later than 24 hours. After event identification, routine reports for non-urgent events no later than 30 days. I would know that. All right. If we're looking at 5, 6 things I want to pull out of this reference, this is definitely one of them. All right. So again, I have my urgent priority, right? Right?
No.
Okay, well I have my what?
Urgent routine.
Urgent, my routine. My urgent's how what's my period? 24 hours. My routine is what? 30 days. Alright, good. Make sure you guys are at least listening. Next slide. Make sure you remember these phone numbers. What was the DRSI? And that's used for reporting what? Which are what? MREs or MERs? Which are what? Alright. So, getting all these things together, right? RMEs, right? Alright. So, again, I see this again. So I know I've seen that on the exam. I know I've seen that on the exam. So new module, DRSI, flags, certified composite healthcare system, which is your CHS labs, results for review reports, and gets into essays, blah, blah. So my big thing again, it's telling me the same thing, right? It's telling me my MERs have to be dealt with in, I mean, it's literally right there, MERs and DRSI. So it's saying it again, over and over and over again. All right. Reporters should use the 30-day window for what types of reports? Routine. All right. 24-hour reports for. All right. It's giving it to me again. All right. Things to highlight. Things to highlight. Operational units, communication conditions that prohibits all external communications, bank delay, urgent reports until after the condition is lifted. Alright? Look in this reference and identify who in your operational unit can do that. If I was writing the test, I'd want that probably be a question I was going to be asking. Does everybody understand what I'm saying? Alright, I'm going to read it again. Alright, then I'm going to put a question mark behind it. Operational units in a communication condition that prohibits all external alright, who in operational units with communication conditions that prohibits all external communications may delay reports until after the condition is lifted. Do you know who? That might be a question. Alright, they always like to ask who, right? Who's responsible? Who is this? Who is that? Alright, in general, MERs are unclassified, alright? Unless an officer with appropriate authority has classified it. When might it be classified? Probably not on the test, but when might it be? Just mostly when depending on operational status or AOR. Alright, when it's going to expose where people are at, what people are doing. Alright. Which, like, when I was in Iraq in, I think it was my second, 05, 06, we had a case when we were doing a census, and so we were doing one of the outlying towns in Fallujah, and there was a case of typhoid fever in that town. So we had to report it, but it had to be classified because we were doing a census in the area. Okay, so those are kind of some things that you can report while deployed. Right, but we involved the PU unit, and they came out and did their stuff. Alright, Navy MERs contain sensitive medical information, so all reports to U.S. mail and email should be marked for official use only. If you're going to send it through email, you want to do what? Alright. Your preventive medical units are available as Navy's primary direct providers and the following so when I'm sending out NMP MUs, you need to identify, and this is extra information, you need to identify who that is when you leave, right? Because we all know there's different levels of our preventive med units, right? So there's like your QRF, and then there's like your big dogs and everything else. So just determine when you go out who that is. Army confirmation assistance, general MER assistance, public health lab support. Next slide. All right, your appendix A. Events are reportable when classified as suspected or probable cases. So I have my suspected, my probable, and my what? Confirmed. All right, good. All right. So my suspected, how can that be confirmed? That's right. So, we get cut off?
No, probable got cut off.
Oh, did it? Okay. Again, with my urgent reports, all right, I'm looking at these urgent reports, and what am I seeing? Go back to the last slide. All right, I'm seeing this, right? So, like, when's the last time somebody seen blood? Yeah. Right? So, I'm not talking like Alan Jackson, right? Because you probably see blood Alan Jackson. Right? But I'm looking at these things, I'm looking, suspected, and then boom, go to the next one, urgent. Bro, some pretty heavy stuff, right? So, I could probably intermix what's going on, but know the differences between your suspected and your urgent reports. When I have reports, I have urgent reports and what? Routine reports. So the last slide, was it reports, or what was it? Suspected, confirmed, or probable, right? So make sure you don't get those two slides mixed up. See what I'm saying? So back slide. Right? This is involved with what? Suspected, confirmed, and probable, right? And then boom, I go right into my reports, which are what? Routine. Next slide. Don't slip yourself up when you're looking at appendixes for A and B. Is that it? Yeah. All right. You see what I'm saying on that? So I'm looking at my appendix A. So if I'm thinking appendix A and it says something about appendix A, according to the reference, I'm really dealing with what? Classifications. If I'm dealing with my appendix B, I'm dealing with what? Reports. Classification of reports. Everybody understand that? Right? So, the few things that we reviewed in there that you really need to know are your report classifications, your report types. For a routine report, how many days do you have? For an urgent, what's your time period? 24 hours. All right. When it says confirmed, it's confirmed by what? Labs. All right. If it's yeah. So go through those three. What's DSRI?
Disease reporting.
Yeah.
All right. What's MER?
Medical
That's not right.
And how do they intertwine within each other?
On the website, isn't right.
Yeah, we reported.
I report what to what?
Huh?
Boom. All right, pretty simple, pretty easy when you break it down, especially when you read the reference. All right. These guys did an amazing job on these PowerPoints. So when you go through them, literally what they did, because I know because I've built a few of these PowerPoints, is we go through the reference, and pretty much these PowerPoints go through the reference on how we read it. Everybody understand what I'm saying? So if slide 3 says routine, routine 30 days urgent, and then slide 8 says it, it's because it was said again probably in the reference. All right. So that's stuff you need to be looking at when you're reading these slides. We're not just pulling this stuff out of the air. I'm not flipping to page 16 and pulling it over here, and then 8 and then pulling over here. We're going in order per the reference. So when you see that kind of stuff, when you're looking at these PowerPoints, which the PowerPoints are good to go, you need to identify that stuff. All right. So this is my last pass I'm going to give you guys. So I'm going to give you all a little bit of pointers that I'm taking. So I'm not going to lie to you. 2 weeks ago, when I went to my EAP, that was the very first EAP I've ever went to. All right. I'm not going to lie again. I'm not the best test taker. All right. I got, they were like, hey, you can get capped. And I, all right, I promoted. So apparently you can't do that cheap. But I tried. So what I got out of EAP, all right, what I'm going to do, all right, first of all, you got a lot of information I can study that is put out by people that's taking the exam. All right. Our EAP was taught by chiefs who've taken the exam. Second of all, when I take my exam, I'm going to continue to study right up to the day. But as soon as I take my exam, like every other test, I'm going to figure out what questions are in there. Now, the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to go back to these PowerPoints and I'm going to review them. Because it's very hard after the test to be like, oh yeah, I remember this question, right? If I go back and read it and I say, oh man, it hits me again, hits me again, hits me again, hits me again. See what I'm saying? So that way I'm going to go back to these PowerPoints, I'm going to go back to the quizzes, and I'm just going to start getting information all I can. Because not only do I want that information for myself, but I want to give you guys the information out there, my fellow first. You guys to get promoted, to get into our ranks. I want to give you guys that information. So if I got what I'm going to do, which may be the best or not the best thing to do, if I get y'all guys on board to do it too, when y'all start teaching these courses, because you should be teaching to the JEA, right? Well, you guys should be teaching for whoever's eligible for E5. You should be doing it. You can pass this information on to them. All right. I'm not going to be long-winded anymore, but again, I will put out color guard again if anybody wants to do it. Yeah.
Can be captured too.
Well, I'm not going to make it of the year. Apparently, I'm too opinionated. Anybody got any questions, comments, concerns? Who's the next instructor? Take 10. Did you get my email on that? Yeah, you'll send out for the whenever you see it and the image up, just throw them down.
Okay. Are you talking about on the website it says chapter 6?
Yeah, well, appendix 2 is chapter 2 is on the bib.
Okay, so
And I did chapter 2.
Make sure I grab the right one real quick. Under reference PowerPoint, right? Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm actually going through that, so.
Actually, that just went downhill all the way. I never wanted to leave 2A. The division is so short.
I was supposed to be over there Monday, but.
I was trying to figure out who came to the other day.
Yeah.
I saw you leaving with your color guard.
Yeah, no, I came over there to figure out, like, hey man, you come to your ship token.
Dude, I never.
And then I walked in, and I saw that line, I was like, yeah, it's a
It was, they were doing a fucking every analysis and formation.
Them all.
Well, they found.
We went over that.
Put that in, OD, yeah, we just got.
I remember that.
There's a bunch of shit.
I thought that was a 2-2 thing.
No, man.
I went 2-2, there was drug tests.
We're on two ends of the fucking spectrum.
It doesn't matter, once you cycle in.
Like they're like, oh, you're table 10, you're table 10.
Oh my god.
2-8 months, 2-8 hoodies. I pissed them off so bad. I make sure I tell them I make that stuff. You gotta live like to the height.
Yep.
What's up? They get so mad, bro. I went to the bro, what's his name, that bald guy? About so when you guys were gone, I went there and he ordered all the hoodies and I had my socks, like the black ones. I got those, the green ones, and all the mugs.
Yeah, I'm gonna get it.
There's stickers everywhere in the time.
Two of them.
I hate you.
You only got 3
Mark, are you sure you wanna do this?
Huh?
They have like no organization.
What?
You want me to show you how to use the code?
You want to show me? Is that what you're telling me?
He wants to learn.
Really?
Warren's still there.
No, Morty left.
One time I called and he was like, you were around town, right? He was like, yeah, you were around town, but you apparently he got married. Yeah, I didn't know he got married. They weren't sick, they were like, I have a dude that's going on 5 months right now, so they're good. Oh, they get back paid. I don't know what the big goal is. I'm not sure like where they mentioned like what's going on. But I have one of my mission crews actually only 6 months now to get paid.
Oh, yeah, where, yeah.
Only because I've sent him over to like over that NCIDC whatever, and it's like they go and they come back and then I told them, alright, this is our CCNG and the email traffic. And then 5 months.
So a couple of ways to see it, just like that. I already changed the desktop.
Yeah.
Change it.
They're in the same. Well, they're not gonna do anything. If they're literally.
Are they like doing something? Dude, I had no idea.
Yeah.
I'll get that
So
probably like 5 years.
you got all the paperwork, you know, he's paying for it.
I still
So
don't
I
have
had to do it actually. Well, yeah, so it's not, yeah, it's supposed to be less than one. And they should have. My brother. Missouri is awesome. We're doing this shit. First of all, we don't have that. We got Pete. He came in after me.
Dude, when I was there, there was a guy who made mess. That Monday. They made mess, right? That's where he got. Yeah. So much. Each one of those dudes, like, we show up, we show up, we show up. Then we have to do that part, so. You would do something. And that's still not really. I don't like that, I probably would say that. You see my life, you see like 50 years, and the next day, like, a couple sergeants seem like 10 minutes late, fried. He's like, lost your liver for a month. Wow, dude.
Hey, who's on the mobile app? Who selected mobile, not desktop?
I did it one time.
Are you on there right now?
Negative. They gave me a hard time, so I went and got my laptop.
The mobile app was difficult yesterday, but should work better today. Just make sure you can pull up the next instruction and it references chapter 2. Like you can take the test or?
No.
No.
Desktop is still showing the same one. Hold on. Let me see if the mobile one does it. It does.
Try it again. Go out. Try it again.
I always know like how it goes.
Still not scoring the quizzes? Hold up, sir. I'll fix it. Yeah, she's like half it. She thought it fixed it all up.
It takes you to the drive.
Yeah, it's weird.
To the what?
I'll show you a picture when I checked it. I had all my hair closed. I really did.
You changed the mobile one too, right?
Yeah, but it might be the same thing. It's got the same link.
Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling it. We're doing a 6 mile the other day, and I'm like, alright, I get blisters somehow. I don't know. That's not what happened.
Yeah, it does.
That was 6 miles.
Did you open it up in Google Slides and copy and paste that web address?
I go to HMS.
No, because it's like opening Google Slides and then change it. You know what I mean? Try this one.
I'm not. I'm just not doing that. And then I come up with words and I'm like, bro, it's my favorite show, man. You run out shit, bro. I checked it out, so motivated every aspect. Swear to God. They're like, I was just looking at myself, like, my girl looking at me, what happened? Like, dude, I walked in and said, after I was there, I'm not even kidding, I really do. I want somebody to go to the, like, yep. Because they would do it to us. They don't like, no, TSR, no, sorry, don't worry. I'm like, dude, I need to drive certain buckets for it. Why are you here? My leg hurts. Oh, I saw you last night. You were drinking. That's fine. Get out.
Pulling up right now. No. Pulling up right.
Pulling up right?
Yeah. So what did you have to do different?
Freaking, I'll show you. When you get this up, it's not drop the freaking.
Is the word they allow?
Get the fucking PowerPoint. What's the with the fucking program? Hey, chapter 10, right?
They got a problem. Where's they ever? Lower side, I'm sorry. It never opens the door.
What we do?
They don't have printer.
You fucking pull the fucking router bit?
Yeah. We only get like at least you get the door won't even open. Like Marie can't be lost out. Oh, this is like the boots. Pretty square. You get 100%. Never talks to me like that. I'm like, what's up? He said 12 minutes inside. I walk outside. The line is like ridiculous by our street.
Oh, hilarious. I mean, I like that because
well, they usually request. Like I'm standing, that's where I got to do the city. Doors are closed. And like Marines are knocking, bro.
hey, the quizzes aren't right either. Same thing? Oh wait, no, never mind. Chapter the third quiz.
The third quiz is it?
Don't even try to answer the question. I got them all in my head.
Did you?
Let's see how good you are. That's how you spoke to me.
That's the other thing.
Yes.
How many years? That's the question.
Huh?
What's on the third one?
I don't know if I created so it has 3 listed. The first 2 are appendix 2. The third one is chapter 2.
They don't need to worry about one and two.
Huh?
Unless you know somebody, like, let's say somebody's audio, somebody's
Hey, so on this next one, only worry about quiz 3. Alright? Quiz 1 and 2 pulls up appendix 2. You only need quiz 3, which covers chapter 2. You can do quiz 1 and 2 if you want. But the only one that's generating questions from what you need to know for your business.
The who? Trick people with these direct observation therapy, huh?
And then this should pull up, the PowerPoint should be chapter 2 now. So if you had appendix 2, you're going to have to close it out because I just updated the website. Alright, so we're going over to chapter 2.
Alright, man, 2 more months.
Alright.
going to be the Navy and Marine Corps Public Health Center Technical Manual, and this is Chapter 2. Prevention. 4 tactics to prevent disease in the field and during combat operations. Determination of disease and injury threats in the area before deployment. Identification of development and employment of countermeasures. There's 3 types of countermeasures that could prevent malaria. Personal protective measures, chemical prophylaxis, and unit protective measures that are, of course, not 100% effective. Primary sources of information regarding malaria and malaria species are the National Center for Medical Intelligence and the NEPU, responsible for that area of the world. Personal protective methods, effective against a wide range of disease vectors, not solely for prevention of malaria, but it's the first line of defense, and their effectiveness is dependent on the service members' adherence. Topical repellent, successful use requires the wear of uniforms treated with permethrin and topical repellent to exposed skin. Began with the use of citronella in 1910, continued with the discovery of dimethyl phthalate during World War II, and led to development of diethyl DEET in 1957. DEET is the gold standard to which other topical repellents are compared, and repellents available to the military are designed to remain effective for 12 hours. Yes. Is it on the part when you go? So, has anybody used DEET before? Do you get the general? Do you have? Good. Do you get the general concept of it? There's different forms of it. Okay. An alternative to DEET is the what is that? Picaridin? Am I saying it right? Does anybody ever use this one? The alternative? Picaridin? Am I saying it right? You usually can get DEET. Next. They did say African prescribes DEET only. Yes.
You gotta close it out and reopen it. Yeah. I had to change the, whatchamacallit.
My bad, just refresh it, sorry.
It's all good.
So, topical repellent, so permethrin, impregnated uniform, and other protective clothing. Longer lasting than topical repellents that cannot be applied to skin. Impregnate for fabric only. Quick acting, lasts 12 hours in unwashed stored clothing. Effective against crawling arthropods such as ticks, flying insects, mosquitoes. So, has anybody ever been told when you wash it and you put fabric softener on it, it kind of doesn't do its full effect? Has anybody ever heard that? Yeah? Okay. It is a thing. Yeah, your cameras, once they get sprayed or whatever, if you wash them and use basically the fabric softener is what you shouldn't be using with them to get the full effect. You do need to wash them. Effective against crawling arthropods, ticks, flying insects, mosquitoes. In accordance with regulations, these uniforms are not to be retreated with permethrin. So, NWUs types 1, 2, and 3 must be manually treated by 3 options. Aerosol treatments, good for 6 washes. Individual dynamic absorption kits for 50 washes. Pesticide sprayer application, good for 50 washes. Requires certified preventive medical personnel. So if they ask washes, any sort of question with like washes, other than aerosol, which aerosol isn't really like too penetrating in one thing, it makes sense for it to be 6 washes. But just remember, any other kit or any sort of like stronger stuff is going to be 50 washes. So 50-50, aerosol only 6. So, permethrin impregnated uniforms and other protective clothing. The Permanone aerosol spray, that's the formulation of it, 0.5. It's odorless, applied in a slow steeping motion, 6 to 8 inches from object, allowed 2 hours of drying before wear. Maybe the 2 hours before wear could be on there, how long it has to impregnate it for. The IDA kit, that's the field kit treating shirt and trousers with separate plastic bags containing 40% permethrin and water mixture. Treatment lasts 50 washes and insect repellent clothing application. Next. Protective netting, insect repellent mesh parka. Has anybody ever had the deep jacket? Insect head net, mosquito bed nets and poles, and self-contained pop-up mosquito bed net. Has anybody been issued any sort of mosquito net, like on any of your clothes? What's that like? Did you get like a tent?
It's just like a pain in the ass to get it all rolled up. It's like on the side of the basketball, flat. I just unzip it, throw it out, spray gloves out, and get it like.
Is it kind of like a tent?
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty much like that. Just it doesn't protect you from the weather.
Okay. And you just be inside of that with your sleeping bag, and you put that whole thing inside of your actual tent.
Yeah, but if you're hot, so normally you just lay that thing.
Okay. Yeah. Chemoprophylaxis. Drug regimens recommended by the CDC for prevention of malaria, confirmed with the nephew responsible for the AOR. Regimens is determined by several factors: known or suspected drug resistance, species of malaria in the endemic area, length of time to be spent in the area, any adverse reaction, G6PD deficiency or other contraindications, and other factors to maybe pregnant. So like the age, pregnancy. And then the prophylaxis before, during, and after. Least appreciated aspects of malaria prophylaxis is taking the drug before, during, and after exposure. Next. All malaria species have bloodstream and liver stages. Disease symptoms only occur during the blood phase, and Plasmodium vivax and P. ovale parasites can stay dormant in the liver for long periods up to several years and can enter the bloodstream, causing symptoms well after exposure. Post-exposure treatment is called presumptive anti-relapse therapy, or PART, formerly known as terminal prophylaxis. Most prophylactic antimalarials are suppressive blood schizonticides. Yeah. And must be continued for 4 weeks after leaving to ensure adequate suppressive whole blood concentrations of the drug at the time that it enters the bloodstream. An exception is Malarone, requiring only 7 days post-exposure. Directly observed therapy, or DOT. The only way leadership can ensure that members take their medications is indicated. Method is proven by WHO and other public authorities. Chain of command support is crucial. Chemoprophylactic regimen. CDC's Yellow Book provides country-specific recommendations for drugs to prevent malaria. Has anybody done the directly observed therapy? You have? How did you do it for your unit when you deployed?
Just line them up.
Line them up and then you just watch them take it, and then the next line comes in and you watch them take it? That makes sense. I know a lot of Marines would like flush them or not take them, and we had to give a lot of them like Malarone because they complained they couldn't take it, and then they wouldn't take that either. So yeah, definitely. Next. So here's showing you the different ones that you can use: Malarone, and Doxy, which is the cheapest and got a lot. Methylquin, Promequin. There's your dosages if you want to go over the chart. I believe the Doxy is one that I have seen on there. And it's going to be 100 milligrams daily. It did ask how many milligrams. So you should probably see that a lot. So whenever you do issue the Doxy in like little baggies, counted enough of it. Next. Unit protective measures, discipline and training. Discipline and correct use of personal protective measures is effective in preventing malaria and other arthropod-borne diseases. Treatment clothing and permethrin, equipment with permethrin. The IDA kit, the tents. The tents should be treated every 6 to 9 months if you're regularly using them. And we already learned about the 50 washes already. Do not dry clean clothing treated with permethrin. Next. Alright.
There's one more.
There's more or there's one more?
One more.
Oh, the location of the base camp. It should be located in areas where there's low risk of exposure, considering the following factors: the presence of mosquito breeding sites, sunlit streams, shaded lagoons, marshes, direction of the winds, proximity to settlements with malaria-infected inhabitants, host population infected humans is necessary to affect mosquitoes. Camp should be at least 2 to 3 kilometers from settlements. That might be on there to 2 to 3 kilometers. The length of time the unit will be present in the area, and the specialist should be consulted. So the entomologist should determine the mosquito species, the abundance, basically all about it. They're the ones that should be reporting and also giving us advice on what to do or where to go. Is everybody doing that quiz?
Make sure the PowerPoint in your guys' that you have access to is missing a few things. So you can follow along for the most part. And I'll update it when she's done doing the presentation.
You want me to try and do it?
What?
Huh?
Okay, so 106 slides is every chapter that we've done in all the APs. We combine them into one. So I'm going to click through only the ones you guys need to know. We're not doing 106 slides. So,
Is the correct one in there or no?
yeah. Correct one.
You want me to try and do it or no? I mean, what's the most likely to fuck it up?
What's the noise?
Okay.
Fuck the whole website? I don't know.
Chief Writer's baby, right? So.
Sorry. Alright, so okay, you ready? Start with introduction to your first one.
Alright. So, here's the background. The program gained special prominence after the passage of the Occupational Safety and Health Act, OSHA, in 1970. Ships with less than 300 people may have to modify the program to suit their command. And the safety manual organized in 4 sections. Next.
H1?
Yeah.
H1L. To save your voice, we have chapters B1, B2, B4, and B5. If you want to go ahead and just go scroll through there, then we can save your
This
voice.
is the intro. It
Oh, and
says-
intro, okay.
Yeah, A1's introduction.
At the very end, okay.
Yeah, don't know, ask me why they put intro at the end, but
He's gonna cut through for him, so.
To make us ask questions.
probably.
I'll just watch them. Alright, so proposal to alter the manual or a safety requirement shall be submitted to Chief of Naval Operations, the Special Assistant for Safety Matters. So, next. There are 3 categories of asbestos work that can be performed for a ship. So, remember there's 3 categories. The Navy policy is that asbestos contaminated insulating materials will not be used on U.S. ships. And they cannot definitively establish a ship is free of asbestos containing material. All ships shall implement and maintain an asbestos management plan, and commanding officers shall ensure that all required resources and personnel are assigned to accomplish this plan. So, has everybody seen the asbestos sheet that goes in everybody's medical record? This is surveillance survey? Right. So that would be any exposure that you would write any exposure to asbestos, right? Alright, next. So asbestos is a fibrous material that is known as a health hazard. And inhalation of asbestos fibers has been demonstrated to cause at least 2 distinct disease states, asbestosis and cancer. So that's something to remember, the 2 things that it can cause. Most symptoms of these asbestos-related diseases do not show up until 10 to 45 years later after exposure. So that's why the surveillance sheet we spoke of is important too. There is only one way to completely prevent the possibility of asbestos-related illness, and that is to eliminate it from the work environment. Next. So there's 2 types of asbestos-contaminated material, and this could be on the test. There's friable and non-friable. So the friable can be crumbled and reduced to powder, and the second one cannot be crumbled. Next. And industrial hygienists shall survey all the workplaces as part of the industrial hygiene survey. So it was it's capitalized, so industrial hygienist could be something on the test. Let's see. Naval shipyards, Navy environmental preventive medicine units, and MTS also had lab testing capabilities. Next. So basically, any place in your workplace that has asbestos, your workplace is going to inform you, your workplace is going to identify it, and we're going to prevent it, or we're going to annotate that you were exposed to it. Next. So this is proper stowage and offloading materials containing asbestos. Stowage of unused asbestos containing gas material and packing stow in double heavy-duty 6 millimeter thickness. So it's capped, so 6 millimeter thickness, plastic bags or other suitable permeable container, must be leak-proof and contain standard asbestos label. Yep. Next.
Distinctly color-coded red.
Repair and removal conducted at sea greater than 3 nautical miles. That's probably going to be on there. 3 nautical miles from U.S. shores are not subject to EPA. However, disposal of ACM upon return is subject. Next. General training is required for all personnel currently exposed or with the potential to being exposed to asbestos. And again, all of command is responsible for training their personnel and of conducting an initial assignment, or at the time of initial assignment. All shipboard asbestos records shall be transferred to a supporting shore medical activity for permanent retention as required. And the supporting shore MTF shall establish a file for each ship. And then, if the ship is decommissioned, the files will go to BUMED. Each individual currently or previously working with asbestos or any other person he or she may designate shall have access to such records within 15 days of written request. 15 is the number, so possibly 15 days of written request. Next. So there's 2 protocols. Ship force. It details requirements and procedures for the repair and removal. Emergency Asbestos Response Team, the ART, formerly known as the 3-man Emergency Rip-Out Team, details requirements and procedures for the minor repair. So possibly the Emergency Asbestos Response Team. Next. The Safety Officer. They shall ensure the ship's force personnel are trained to accomplish the work and track the lab analysis records. Engineering, repair, aviation, intermediate maintenance department heads shall provide the proper PPE and ensure that the waste is collected and stored appropriately. And the medical department shall implement the AMSP as applicable. Each team consists of a supervisor, cutter, cleaner, and these are the ships that should maintain the EART. And they can perform small-scale, short-duration actions, other than minor repairs here and there. A minor repair is anything less than 3 linear feet of pipe, or 1 foot of insulation, or 1 square foot, I guess, of insulation on surfaces other than pipe. So 3 linear feet. Next. Do you have asbestos sample procedures? So restrict access within 10 feet of area, and use plastic spray bottle to provide the mist, not a stream. And only a small sample is needed, approximately a 1/2 inch. So that could be one. How much of a sample is taken? Just a 1/2 inch. Alright. Next. Okay. So heat stress. Heat stress is any combination of air temperature, thermal radiation, humidity, airflow, workload, and health conditions that can cause stress to the body, and it's supposed to regulate the body temp. So this is going to be about dry bulb, wet bulb, and glow temperature readings. Alright. It says that the Navy uses these as a wet bulb. and an automated heat stress system. So I've seen the AHSS on the test, and I have seen the wet bulb. It'll ask you to choose one, which one. One of the choices was either one of these actually. It was like A, B, and C for the question. So just know a little bit of it if you don't already. Next. Has anybody ever done the wet globe? Anybody who's been in for a while, possibly, or if you have to go to the field like a whole lot, run the wet globe. You determine on how long the individual can be exposed. So depending on what the measure is what we, I guess, the flags that are going to go up. Next. These are conditions that elevate heat stress. Basically, exposure to heat and just being hot and humid. Next. In addition, other factors reduce physical stamina and enhance susceptibility. So other than where you're at, what's around you, obviously illness can make it worse, lack of sleep, dehydration, meds. Next. So heat acclimatization occurs gradually, usually requiring 3 weeks or more, although most of the process occurs within the first week. So it's in red, 3 weeks or more. The CO shall establish and enforce all effective heat stress policies to personnel. For ships without an automated heat stress system installed, ensure at least 2 portable, calibrated, and operable wet bulb flow temperature meters are available on board. So 2 portable. Next. The MVR shall submit heat stress surveys that result in reduced stay times and commanding officer for daily review. The DIVOs, they're going to limit the personnel to heat exposures for established day times. So basically they can adjust like the shifts if you work in the steam room or something. That's the DIVO's job. And all hands should obtain prompt medical attention for personnel that you see that are having symptoms. And all hands are required to do the heat stress training. Next. Alright, so this is the calculation for the wet bulb. Have you ever seen where they do the one make you figure it out? I haven't yet. I haven't had them make me do the math. I've only had it to.
It sucks.
Yeah. So dry bulb thermometer positioning, you're going to hang it. Hang the dry bulb thermometer shall be permanently mounted at watch and workstations throughout the ship where heat stress may exist. And placement of the dry bulb thermometers may be in or out of the ventilation airstream, but must be hung at least 2 feet. So 2 feet could possibly be on there from any supply ventilation terminal. Next. So thermometer should be hung with a non-heat conducting material. Makes sense, right? Because it could affect the temperature. Never hang on metal wire. And the difference between the dry bulb thermometer and dry bulb temperature with the wet bulb during surveys 5 degrees Fahrenheit or greater at any watch or workstation than the dry bulb thermometer is not representative of the temperature of the workstation. So, know that. And the dry bulb do not require calibration. Next. For the dry bulb temperature readings, the ship shall record dry bulb temperature readings when the ship is underway or when potential heat stress or conditions exist in the port. When surveying a work or watch station using the wet bulb, the surveyor shall position the thermometer where the worker or watchstander normally stand. It makes sense, right? You see what they're exposed to, not in the corner where they're not actually working. It could be cooler than where they're standing. Next. In the workspace.
That second one was on the last exam, if it's moved.
Alright, as the meters move from one side to another, the meter should be at the side you're right. For 3 minutes to allow stabilization of the first reading. Did anybody see the 5-minute one up there? So I'm trying to remember. For sure the 3 minutes, try to remember that. The ship shall use a heat stress survey sheet, and that's the OPNO form, to record the heat stress information. Next. drink more water than satisfies thirst, but no more than 1.5 liters an hour. So 1.5 liters an hour. At least 6 hours of continuous sleep for 24 hours is recommended. I have seen that one. How much sleep? Don't take salt tablets. Next. Questions? Is that it? The Navy policy requires that personnel working in eye hazard areas or operations are provided adequate eye protection. Goggles, welders goggles, chemical goggles. Next. The commanding officer shall ensure the effective site conservation program is established and place emphasis on to use it. The safety officer shall evaluate areas, processes, and equipment to look for hazards and maintain a current listing of all the areas and processes that require eye protection and those that might require an eye wash or shower facilities, and evaluate the program at least annually. So it could possibly be the annually. Anything revision stuff, usually you see a lot of that on tests. Next. Division officers shall ensure the areas defined as eye hazardous are properly marked and labeled, and ensure personnel use proper eye protection where it's needed. And the medical MDR shall provide personnel who require corrective lenses on the prescription. Next. Determination. The baseline industrial hygiene survey will make an initial determination of eye hazard areas or processes and where you would put an eye wash station. Designation. The ship, construction, or ship repair yard shall mark permanently installed equipment and processes that are eye hazard areas with in dark letters, so in 3-inch deck stripping with a caution sign. So 3-inch deck stripping caution sign. Next. To issue, the ship shall provide and issue appropriate eye protection at the government expense. Prescription protective eyewear, as determined by safety officer and MDR, prescription safety glasses are necessary. The eyewear prescription form, DD771, that could be on there. Next. Maintenance of protective eyewear. Personnel shall maintain the personal protective eyewear clean and ready to use. Eye protection equipment should be immersed for 10 minutes in disinfectant, rinse, and air dried. Next. Emergency eye wash or eye face baths are primary first aid for splashes or exposure to corrosive materials. The emergency deluge waters are primary first aid for significant splashes to the skin or body. And the ship shall have adequate number of properly maintained inspected eye wash facilities. Next. Eye wash station must be capable of flushing eyes, minimum flow rate of 0.4 gallons per minute for 15 continuous minutes. I've seen 15 continuous minutes. They shall have a one motion, like a paddle or full strap, stay open valve, such that when activated, the eye wash will remain on to allow the user to hold open their eyelids to facilitate flushing. And shall be on the same level, unobstructed, and easily accessible within 100 feet or 10-second travel of the identified eye hazard. The unit shall be positioned with the eye wash nozzle not less than 33 inches or more than 45 inches above the deck and 6 inches minimum from the nearest wall or obstruction. And the eye wash shall deliver tepid flushing water, 60 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And no more than 100 because it can be harmful to the eyes. Potable water valves to eye wash stations shall be locked open with a metal tamper-proof lanyard marked as W or circle W fitting. Next. All emergency eye wash or shower equipment must be maintained through the planned maintenance system, or PMS, and clearly marked with a white lettering stating emergency eye wash station. Next. For propulsion plant spaces of nuclear powered submarines, eye wash bottles, in lieu of the permanent portable ones, shall be readily available on the Euclinionics water chemistry room and secondary analysis station. The DIVO, or the work center supervisors, are going to perform the training. No attempt should be made to remove a particle, lodge an eyeball, or wash an eye that has been cut in any way, taken to medical. Next.
I'll double check and get B4 in there for you guys tonight. Any questions?
It's just a lot of material for this.
It's hearing conservation sign in there?
Yeah, we didn't do that. There should be like experts agreeing conservation with everybody on green side basically agreeing conservation.
Alright, go ahead and take a 5-minute review your quizzes, and then next instructor's not here till 1500, so 10 minutes.
I got that into the
regarding all these instructions that'll help you out as you're going through answering test questions, right? Like the difference between a slash and a dot, right? One's a form, one's an instruction, okay? So think about those things. So that's what ViewMed does. When you see ViewMed and the little multiple, guess questions, right? Think about what ViewMed does. ViewMed sits there and comes up with policy. Okay? Customer service, it's a policy. Right? So ViewMed tells the Echelon 3 commanders, right? We've got East, West, and Oconus that, hey, this is our guidance on customer service. Push it down to your COs, right? And the COs push it down to the customer service representatives or customer service representative officer, and then you have a customer service representatives in each clinics. Okay? How often are you going to review your customer service metrics? Annually, right? Okay. And then lastly, of the 4 customer service survey metrics, okay, can somebody name me 2 of them? Joe's? Joe C. Okay? Tris, and then you have the dental stuff, right? We envelop there like our stepchildren, okay? All right? I don't mean to offend any of you fan fairies. All right? Okay, so NavMed P5042, right? It's the chemical, biological, and the field instruction. So, kick it off. Alright, biological warfare is the intentional use of viruses, bacteria, and other microorganisms or toxins derived from living organisms to cause death, disease in humans, animals, or plants. Okay? All things that can seriously affect the battlefield environment. Okay? Also, all things that are primarily not going to be, an instant death. Okay? In this battlefield landscape that we're in, heavy on terroristic threats, okay, this is an avenue that we should probably be a little in the know about, correct? Alright, so we have some dates. Dates are always a good thing. 1943, the U.S. began research and experimentation with several human and plant pathogens for the use of biological weapons. 1969, U.S. policy to cease offensive biological warfare research and never stockpile, produce, weaponize, or use biological agents. Okay? That was our NATO deal. We're not going to do that. Okay? That's not a warfare that we're going to use anymore because of how terrible it is. Okay? Alright, in the 70s, all U.S. research was terminated. In 72, all U.S. biological arsenal was destroyed, and the U.S. joins the Biological Weapons Convention, which prohibits biological warfare. Alright. Now, what we do is we develop vaccines, okay, and chemoprophylaxis. It's another deal, or another command that's up there at Walter Reed. You have Walter Reed Institute of Research. Okay, that's all they do. Right. Perspective: biological warfare agents are easy to obtain. Okay, ricin, anthrax, very easy to obtain. All right, the ability to genetically engineer and modify viruses and bacteria to enhance their effects is also very easy and relatively inexpensive. Next. Okay. So, there's several different modes that they can distribute this biological warfare, right? We have, a conventional explosive, okay? An aerosol and just regular contamination. Right, dumping it in a food or water supply or contaminating a field, right? Aerosol, you're going to get the most bang for your buck. Okay? So, next. Alright, aerosols can be used as weapons of mass destruction and produce mass casualties. Epidemic produced by biological warfare against can quickly overwhelm a supporting military health service support system. Alright. Back when I was growing up, we got the salty gray, right? So the movie Outbreak. Okay?
Yeah.
Freaking monkey, bring your freaking Ebola over here.
Drop the bomb.
Right, drop the bomb, right? Most recent, what, Amazon Prime, Jack Ryan, okay?
Church.
Yep, the church, and then, you know, what was in the church? It was
aerosol.
Yeah, it was sarin, okay? And then later on, they tried to, you know, release Ebola in the air ducts, right? So, next one. Okay, their effects. Lethal agents produce death in all or most victims. Okay, they're very virulent warfare or biological stuff. All right, they're classified by these things: their effects, how they affect. All right, are they going to produce pustules? Are they going to, you know, affect your respiratory system? Are they going to affect your GI tract? All right, and then their taxonomy, how we describe them, how we classify them. Okay, their mode of delivery, and the clinical syndrome that is produced. Okay, so this is the study in biological integrated detection system, and the short range standoff detection system, and the long range. All right, this is how we detect them and what we develop to study them. Next. Now we have a portal shield system and an air-based port biological detection advanced concept technology demonstration. Under the direction of the Joint Program Office of Biological Defense, this will consist a network of biological and chemical point detectors linked to a computer system in order to collect, suspect aerosol. Alright, sorry, my George W. Bush Texan is coming out. Okay, aerosolized biological warfare agents and test for their presence using, I'm not going to say that word, system. Okay, alright, and then we have a joint biological point detection system. Okay, it's under development. Automatic air sampling device which will provide visual and audible alarms in the presence of biological agents. Okay? Alright. Water reservoirs and other large water supplies are difficult to contaminate due to the size and chlorination. However, pathogens and toxins can survive. Who has dogs? Right? It's parvo. Okay. Bad news bears. Okay. Next. All right. So not all biological warfare agents are the same. Okay. Different bacteria, different viruses, they have different incubation periods. Okay. And not everybody's immune system is the same, okay? So some people's immune systems might be compromised. We fight this, and we try to prepare for it by giving people like tons of shots, right? Oh, doc, I got JEV yesterday. Right? Oh, I didn't make it in the MERS. You're gonna get it again, right? You know, oh, I had smallpox, whatever. However, it goes down and didn't go into the book correctly, and then get input in the MERS. We're giving out a bunch of the shots. But the deal is, that's the reason why we vaccinate everybody. Alright? We vaccinate everybody. Alright? So due to incubation periods, alright, biological warfare may not be apparent for days or weeks. Okay, so it's going to be 12 hours to 72 hours. So about or 6 hours, yeah, 12 hours to 72 hours. That's what it should be the initial incubation period. But depending on what type of biological warfare agent it is, it could be 7 to 17 days. And that's important numbers to memorize for your test. Okay? Because especially that 7 to 17 days, when you think about quarantining somebody, even if they're not showing the symptoms, look, we all know people can be a little bit contagious afterwards, right? So you want to quarantine them 17 days after, all right, they stop showing symptoms. So once you have a cluster group of individuals showing the exact same symptoms, all right, you'll have your epidemiology team come in and start studying, taking blood samples, tissue samples, and figuring out what type of a biological warfare agent that you're experiencing. Okay, and then you're going to have to develop possibly an antigen to fight it. Correct? All right, next. Okay, that's what this is talking about. So what we'll take is blood cultures, serum samples, and tissue samples. Tissue samples are generally going to be samples of people that have been sick for a while, okay, or deceased. And then they have given a little table talking about anthrax. Okay, so from initial contact till 24 hours, you can use nasal and throat swabs. Right. When you get past the day to 72 hours, we're looking for serum and blood. And then 3 to 10 days, serum and blood, okay? And other pathology specimens. Next. T2 toxosis, again, 0 to 24 hours. We'll do a nasal throat swab, 1 to 5 days, serum, okay, and tissue toxin detection, and then greater than 6 days, urine or detection of toxin metabolites for detection of toxin metabolites. All right, equine encephalomyelitis. Okay, 0 to 24 hours. Again, nasal swabs, throat swabs. Okay, looking for those respiratory secretions. And day to 3 days, we're going serum, and then greater than 6 days, we got pathology specimens. Smallpox. Again, swabs, 2 to 5 days. We're going to look for viral cultures, and then drainage from skin lesions. All right, we'll start seeing those boils. Pretty much everybody's running a little time over at ITX. Got the 15 needles, right? Covered up with some opsite. Ricin, okay? Just most recently got delivered to Mattis's doorstep, right? And into the Pentagon. Okay? But due to these detection, right? Mail detection is we talked about earlier. Alright, detection sensors, they were able to find it. Okay? Ricin, we'll do the nasal swabs, the 0 to 24 hours, then 36 to 48 hours. We're looking for serum and tissue specimens. Alright. And then if anybody's survived past 6 days, again, they'll do the same thing. Staph enterotoxosis. Alright, nasal swabs again, you notice. Alright. Then we're going to 2 to 6 hours. Now we're looking for urine and respiratory secretions. And then greater than 6 days, serum. Alright. Now, Ebola. Okay? Again, we're going to start showing like flu-like symptoms, okay? So we'll do the nasal swabs, respiratory secretions. In 2 to 5 days, we'll do serum cultures. And greater than 6 days, if they're still alive, serum cultures and then pathology specimens. Alright, next. I've never seen a legend on, but these are the abbreviations. Okay, next. Alright, so we're going to label specimens. We want to give a brief description of the illness and gross autopsy findings. Again, always place, date, time of death, and then place, date, time of collection. All right, that's going to help the epidemiologist know and group the types of viruses or the level of virus, how it's mutated, okay, and track it. The individual's unit, patient's name, numerical identifier, yada, yada, yada. And then routine lab slips should be included with each sample. Data should include the number of days since the onset of symptoms and the reason samples were obtained. Okay? All will be used for information to track the progression of that biological warfare. Next. Alright, so each specimen will be placed in a watertight receptacle made of glass, plastic, or metal with a screw cap closure reinforced with adhesive tape. I would know that. Okay? That would be a good question. Serum specimens will be placed individually in a second plastic vial or a zip-top bag to prevent leakage. Absorbent material is placed between the primary and secondary packaging. Contents should be insulated with cold packs or dry ice. If ice is used, the container must be leak-proof. Alright, again, you don't want anything, that's just another way for that biological warfare to get out. The container must allow or escape of the carbon dioxide gas. Transportation out of theater, the samples must be packaged in International Air Transport Association Department of Transportation 49. Code Regulation 173 approved container. I would know that as well. Specimens sent rapidly, less than 24 hours, require only wet ice or refrigeration. No 2 to 8 degrees Celsius. If beyond 24 hours, contact the U.S. Army Medical Research Institute of Infectious Disease, which is up at Bethesda. Or one of the stations up in Bethesda. Okay, use the Department of the Army, DA Form 4137, I would know that, and also DOD Form 1911, okay, the material courier receipt for each sample that's collected. When neither is available, the information must be recorded in a manner of clear chain of custody has been verified. That's what we're talking about, where you took it, okay, who you took it from, how you took it from, and then that chain of custody of everybody that is transferred over until it gets to its final place to be studied. Documentation should provide the answers to the following question: when, who, and what. Alright? Each chain of custody must be recorded with date, time change. Next. Alright, isolation of the etological agent by culture, detection of agents by enzyme, mass spectrometry, animal inoculation, or other methods. Alright, antibody detection specific to the immunoglobulin may appear within 3 days. Genome detection by PCR, detection of metabolic products of infectious or toxic agents and clinical specimens. Now, our prevention. So we're talking about, that's our prophylaxis, right? Our immunizations that we take before we go on deployment, and our post-exposure chemoprophylaxis. Okay, all immunizations should be given prior to entry to the area. All right, supporting med units should assist commanders in determining which immunizations and chemoprophylaxis is required for specific ARs. So that's a good one. So when we're going over to Afghanistan now, we're not taking JV, right? But when we go over to Okinawa, right, we're taking JV. Okay, so that constant study, right, making sure that we're taking the necessary vaccines. The intelligence officer, chemical officer, and surgeon advise the commander on the appropriation of NCIDCs. Next. These are all the active immunizations for biological warfare. Now, you'll notice, okay, this is where it overlaps with other instructions, right? But no anthrax, Argentine hemorrhagic fever, botulinum toxins, plague, Q fever, Rift Valley fever, smallpox, tularemia, Venezuelan encephalitis, and yellow fever. I always see yellow fever, smallpox, tularemia, Q fever, botulinum toxin, and anthrax on the test. Okay, so I would know those vaccines. Next. Okay, you have your protective equipment, which is just your chemical, biological, overboots, protective gloves, your mask, battle dress overgarment, okay, all that stuff. The filters must be replaced when exposed to a biological agent. All right, the elements are immersed in water. Okay, that's going to render your filter ineffective. Elements are crushed, cut, or otherwise damaged. Excessive breathing resistance is encountered. Okay, that means that your filter's getting clogged up. 30 days have elapsed in the combat theater of operation. Okay, I would know that. Supply bulletins indicate a lot number has expired and or ordered by the CO. Next. Alright. Self-aid. Alright, when we're talking about first aid of this biological warfare agents. Pre-exposure and post-exposure and chemoprophylaxis is directed. Okay, we're going to seek medical evaluation for a fever or other signs and symptoms. Okay, it's just us doing our regular due diligence. Okay. Buddy aid. A buddy should assist any service member who develops a fever and request medical assistance in all cases. It's nothing new, right? We'll get a fever, start doing a sick call, right? And then combat lifesaver aid. Individuals with swelling of the cervical tissue, right, may benefit from an oropharyngeal airway or endotracheal intubation to prevent or treat upper airway obstructions. Next. Casualties unable to continue wearing protective equipment should be held transported within the patient protective wraps designed to protect the patient against further exposure. Collective protection by the use of either hardened or unhardened shelter equipment with an air filtration unit providing positive pressure airflow can also offer protection. How does that positive pressure help? Huh?
Pushes it away.
Yeah, pushes it away. Like, so that's where you're dealing with an aerosol agent. Okay, in a sense, it's the exact same thing when you walk into, or like some chow halls or whatever. You open up the door, and it's blowing positive pressure down to keep flies and stuff like that from coming in. Okay. All right, in the absence of dedicated structure, enhanced protection can be afforded within most buildings by sealing cracks, entry ports, and providing filtration with high efficiency particulate or HEPA filters within existing ventilation systems. It just makes sense. You're going to want to clog up anything that's going to get into where you're at, and then use some HEPA filters is going to help clean it up. Next. So reinforced procedures of mass casualty situations with undifferentiated febrile illness. Okay? If, let's just say, if you have a cluster of people getting fevers with the same symptoms, well, let's get them out of there. Okay? Let's get them out of there. Let's quarantine them before they get everybody else sick. Alright, the use of surgical masks on patients is appropriate when separate tents or structures are not available. We practice this even at the hospital during flu season. Right? Have a fever, got a cough, put on a mask when you go into the hospital, correct? Alright, medical evacuation. The identity of the agent through analysis or environmental samples. Potentially contaminated casualties should be decontaminated prior to evacuation. Alright, let's say, and if it is like an agent like ricin or anthrax, some type of powder, we're going to decontaminate them so we don't infect other people, right? Commanders must commit assets to be contaminated, to the contaminated environment. Okay, we're going to have to get people out of there. And then patients air evacuated by the Air Force must be externally decontaminated prior to loading onto an aircraft. Okay. And then United States Transportation Command, commanders and chiefs will determine whether the Air Force aircraft will be sued for patient aeromedical evacuation. Next. Alright, we talked about that. We talked about biological warfare attacks. Their signs and symptoms can show up between 12 and 72 hours, and then 7 to 17 days. And that's why we want to consider quarantining them after they've not had symptoms to the 17 days. Okay? Plague is an internationally quarantinable disease. Okay? You're not getting anywhere. You're going to be where you're at until you don't have plague. It is highly variable. Okay? Viral hemorrhagic fevers, such as Ebola, right, does not require quarantine, with exception of yellow fever. Infectious disease known etiology, assume infection with the agent requiring the most stringent infection control procedures. We always do that. Okay? We're always operating on what can kill people the greatest, right? So we want to be the safest, not to infect people that have not come in contact with that biological agent. Biological agent casualties may be safely evacuated using basic infection control guidelines, except for, again, plague, smallpox, and hemorrhagic fevers. Okay, those pose specific risks. Right? Patient movements require approval from the destination countries from which are sought and bound by Article 37. Okay, I would know that of the Geneva Convention. And that's will be another portion where it crosses over with other references, right? We're talking about sofas and everything like that, trying to get people out of an environment. Coordination between theater and U.S. Transcom and the surgeon and Department of the State is required for such movements. All right, getting them over here, okay, as well as DoD foreign clearance guides. Next. All right, Aeromedical Isolation Team, AIT. AIT is a rapid response team with worldwide airlift capability. It's designed to safely evacuate and manage patients with potentially lethal communicable diseases under high-level containment. Right? They're not going to provide mass CAS, but they will offer portable containment lab and specialized consultative experience. Right? We talked about outbreak. You know, they started everybody started getting sick, and then they freaking swarmed the freaking town, right? Set up everything. That's what the AIT is going to do. Okay? An investigational new drugs and off-label indications. Okay? The executive order 13.9, improving health protection of military personnel by participating in particular military operations. This outline is conditions for and discuss numerous foreign products. All right, that's just what David and then Walter Reed they do. Okay, that's what they study. Okay. Next.
That's it.
That's it? Alright. Any questions? I mean, it's really rough, but you're going to want to know the forms, okay? Know the vaccines, and know the roles of the institutes. I want to take a break, or y'all want to roll into this next 30 minutes? Push? Alright, so we went over biological warfare. This next one we're going to go over nuclear warfare. So it's going to be pretty much the same dry CBRNE. So there's three types of radiation. Okay, we have alpha, beta, and neutrons. Okay, alpha is a helium nucleus. Has 2 protons and 2 neutrons. It's highly ionizing and slightly penetrating. Okay, it's not going to go through a lot of stuff. Beta, it's going to go through a lot of stuff. Okay, it's has identical electrons. Right, and is byproducts of heavy nuclides, like plutonium. Okay, that is your nuclear bomb stuff right there. Okay, it's only going to penetrate a few millimeters of tissue. The neutron is electrically neutral. Okay, but it can severely disrupt atomic structures. Gamma and X-rays, that's your most abundant nuclear byproducts. Alright, it's going to be the most of the ionizing radiation that you're going to see. Gamma and X-rays have energy and momentum, but no mass. Alright, that's important. I've seen it on the test. The difference between gamma and X-ray photons is the point of origin. Gamma photons originate from the nucleus, and X-rays come from the electrons. Okay? And and they will result in photons. They're highly penetrating. A large fraction may pass through the human body without any interaction, but it can result in irradiation. Okay, next. All right, we measure radiation by these two things. We use the SI system, and then the absorbed dose. Okay, the absorbed dose is the most important because that is exactly how much your body has absorbed and has been irradiated. Next. I was just saying, in order to achieve a certain level of biological damage, right, the absorbed dose must achieve a given level. This level differs depending on the type of radiation. Okay? Gamma rays are going to be a little bit more. All right, dose equivalent to the measure of the actual biological damage of the tissue. That's why we call it the actual dose. The linear energy transfer per unit length of the track. Right? The higher, the more effective the damage. Now the quality factor relates to the amount of biological damage caused by the radiation that is caused by the same absorbed dose of the gamma rays. All right, X, gamma, and beta rays have a quality factor of 1. Alpha particles, fission fragments, and heavy nuclei have a quality factor of 20. Neutrons have a quality factor of 3 to 20. And that's what's going to, your actual dose. We talked about photon, or the neutrons, some will just pass right through you, right? But the ones that do, because of their level of 20, possibly, they can cause a lot of damage. Next. All right, dose rate. Dose rate of radiation per unit of time. Okay? Centigrade per hour. All right, the activity, a measure of how many atoms disintegrate or decay per unit of time. All right, and that's what goes into the half-life. Okay? The activity, all right, how volatile that nuclear material is. When we talk about half-life, that is essentially the half of that particle's life. Right? How long it takes for half of it to disintegrate. Okay, we have alpha shielding. All right, heavily charged particles with low penetration range. Piece of paper. Okay, beta shielding. We have 2 potential external radiation hazards. Beta particles can travel significant distances in air. We can use either aluminum, plastic, or glass in that protection. Any welders? No welders? Anybody know it? Shop class isn't a thing anymore, is it? Alright, so friggin' welding. Okay, that's what that is. Okay? You shield yourself with plastic. But your skin is exposed, or your eyes are exposed, you can result in some burns. Alright? Gamma shielding. It's difficult to shield high density media like lead, tungsten, steel. Right? No matter how thick the shield, some photons will still get through. And then neutron shielding. More complicated than other shielding, most effective materials slowing down neutrons are light elements, particularly hydrogen, water, paraffin, or concrete, make efficient neutron shields. This is the little diagram. Alright, so when we talk about nuclear detonation, most bombs are going to be uranium-235 or plutonium-239. The results from formation of supercritical mass or fissionable material with near instantaneous release of nuclear binding energies. Okay, that's that sending out all those particles, and large-scale conversion to mass energy. Right, that's what creates such a prolific explosion. Next. So 50% of it, boom, it's gone in the blast. All right, that's what we talk about. It's that great release of energy. Boom, 50% of it, boom, it's gone. All right, 35 is thermal radiation. All right, made up of wide range electromagnetic spectrum, and that's, you'll see, you know, when you're looking at before the mushroom cloud, you know, it's that huge flash of light. Okay, kind of like welding. All right, next is your 15 as ionizing radiation. All right, that's the bad stuff. That's the fallout. Okay, which includes 5% as initial radiation emitted through the first minute, and after detonation is 10% residual nuclear radiation. Okay, it's the stuff that's still like making like hybrid freaking wolves in like Chernobyl and shit like that. Okay, next. Super awesome pie chart. Okay, now there's 4 different types of or ways to deliver these explosions. All right, you have a high altitude, which is 50 kilometers in the air. Okay, it's going to travel 100 miles, but the effect is not going to be as great. Okay. An airburst is going to be a little bit greater. Okay, but the reason why it's an airburst, okay, it explodes before it hits the ground, but the fireball is not going to make contact with the ground. Now, a surface burst, again, it's going to explode before it hits the ground, but the fireball is going to touch the ground. All right. I started off in the military as an aviation structural mechanic, right? So our missiles and stuff like that, like when they shoot out, okay, you know, that missile doesn't go like right into the plane, or the missile's not going to go right into the vehicle. It gets close to the vehicle and then explodes. This is where you're going to cause your most mass effect, right? Is this surface burst. And then you have a subsurface burst, which is underneath the water, right? Or underneath the ground. Next. All right. And in any explosion, okay, you have 2 different pressures. All right, you have your direct blast wave overpressure. What you want to know is 28 psi. It can be lethal, but it's survivable. Anything over 37 is lethal. Whether it be nuclear or not, that overpressure over 38 is going to shear body organs, right? And then 28, you have the potential to shear body organs, right? Most definitely, you're probably going to get a TBI. Okay, indirect blast or wind drag. So what this is when a nuclear bomb goes off, okay, and the wind will take, all right, the wind direction will take radiological particles, all right, other places. When I was over, my first time with Division, when I was over at 1st Marines, we were downrange during what we called Steel Night. There's a whole bunch of arty party going on for like 30 freaking days, just raining it down, right? Well, they were shooting Willie Pete, okay, and they thought that the range that they were shooting at was far enough away. There was a wind change, a wind direction change. All of a sudden, everybody's freaking skin started fucking burning. Okay, we had to evacuate where we were at because that wind was bringing over freaking Willie Pete, getting on everybody's fucking skin. Okay. All right, next. All right, flash, thermal, or pulse burns. All right, burn patterns indicate by spatial relationship to clothing. Okay, it's just going to be what skin is out. Okay, it's going to be like a sunburn, right? That's a very mild case, and then a very heavy case, it'll be second and third degree burns. Okay, or even full burns. But that's what I was talking about. Very low radiation, what is welding. You have your skin out, you can get that type of burn, right? All right, and then flame burns. Okay, fire is bad. Next. Okay, flash blindness. Okay, that's what we were talking about. You have that ultraviolet light. If you don't cover your eyes, okay, if you're that slow person that wants to go out there and look at the eclipse, right? That's the shit that you're gonna get. All right, that's a flash burn. All right, flash blindness. And then if you look at it long enough, you'll get retinal burns. Next. When we talked about the initial radiation of 5% of energy released at a nuclear airburst, residual radiation is what stays. Okay, fission products, 30 different fission products produced during detonation, or 300. Some of their half-lives are fractions of a second, while others can be a hazard for months or years. Like I pointed out, the explosion over in Chernobyl, there's still effects today, right? And then recently in Japan, okay, there's effects to all different types of aquatic life that they're noticing, right? Just from that radiation leakage. All right, unfissioned nuclear material, relatively inefficient in their use of fission material. Neutron-induced ground activity, all right, any nuclei or soil, air, water can become radioactive neutron-induced ground activity depending on its composition and how it's affected by that nuclear waste. Next. All right, we talked about large amounts of the fallout earth water will be vaporized, especially if the yield is how big the explosion is, 10 kT. All right, large particles settle back to the earth within 24 hours. Scavenging refers to the process that increases the rate in which radioactivity is removed from the fallout cloud and deposited on the Earth's surface. All right, internal contamination. Many radioactive isotopes are released into the biosphere. Radionuclides may enter the body through wounds or gases, right? The air, which is inhaled. So we're going to, worry about internal burns. Further information that you might need to know BUMED Instruction 6470. 10, Bravo. I think that's it. That's all she wrote. All right. That's a lot of heavy information. But again, no airburst, no difference between the particles. Okay, know what fallout is. No corresponding instruction, and you should be pretty good to go. Okay. All right. Thank you all for your time.